Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Rachel and I am knitting. Not right now, but most of the time. And I have been knitting. As you may notice, I am wearing my sheep camp. And I have been wearing it in some other videos, but now in this video, it's done. It's officially a finished object. All of the ends are woven in, it's the length I want it, and it's done. So let's talk about it. I will say, in my first episode of FO Diaries, or Finished Object Diaries, the series where I talk about a garment or an item I've recently finished making, the last episode was for my purple ranunculus. And that was when? In June? July? It was a while ago. And since that time, I have had several other FOs, or finished objects, but I don't know. I just haven't had the wherewithal to sit down and film myself talking about them. But I do have the wherewithal for the sheep camp. So I'm going to walk you through my experience knitting the sheep camp sweater, what went well for me, what didn't go well for me, and maybe I can help you avoid some of the issues I had if you have similar preferences to me. So with that said, let's get started. All right, first things first. This sheep camp, as you may well know, is knit in two colors from Treehouse Knits. I knit this on Lauren's non-superwash DK weight base, and it is so soft. I've said this before, if you told me this was a cashmere blend yarn, I would believe you 100%. It is incredibly soft. Now, it's so soft that I was skeptical that it was even non-superwash, but it is, and I know that because I did multiple spit splices to join my skeins together during the process of knitting this. So yes, this is knit with Treehouse Knits yarn in the colorway Smoke Show, which is this main color, this dark purple, and First Flurries, which is this lighter purplish gray. There are pink undertones as well, and it creates a really beautiful high contrast yet monochromatic look. So basically it creates this look where I have dark purple and light purple, and I really like the end result. So one other thing I should say about the yarn. This yarn was gifted to me. I did not buy this yarn. It was sent to me from Lauren of Treehouse Knits so generously, along with 3 other sweater quantities to make some beautiful projects. And this is the first of the batch that I have completed, and I'm so happy with it, and it's making me very excited to continue working on the other 3 sweaters that I have in my queue with Treehouse Knits yarn. Before I keep going, since we're talking about yarn, I'm just gonna keep riding that train and tell you I'm so proud to be an affiliate for Treehouse Knits. If you ever need to shop Treehouse Knits, or you have a pre-order that you are anxiously awaiting for them in the future, please always feel free to use my affiliate link. I have it in my video description box, and I also keep it in my bio of my Instagram profile. So now that we've talked about the yarn and gotten that foundation laid, let me talk to you about the process of knitting it. When Lauren reached out to me to partner, and she said to pick 4 projects that I would like to make with her yarn, the sheep camp was instantly at the top of my list because I've seen it on a lot of people's feeds on Instagram. I think it always has looked really good whenever I've seen it. It seems like people really enjoy the making process. So I wanted to add that to my queue. So that's what I did. And when the yarn arrived at the end of July, I was very excited to cast on. But I followed the rules. I took the time to knit a swatch, and I'll show you this swatch here. I knit this swatch in the round on 16-inch circular needles. So essentially I cast on what would be enough for the circumference of a hat or so. And then I just knit in the round because this garment is knit in the round, and that is going to give me the most accurate gauge measurement. So I knit a portion of the swatch in the colorwork pattern, and then I also knit a portion of the swatch in stockinette because the pattern has two different gauges listed, one for the colorwork and one for the stockinette. So the gauge for the pattern, and I'm looking at it here on my screen, for the colorwork portion is 22 stitches and 25 rounds, should make a 4-inch square. For my gauge for the colorwork portion, I had 21 stitches over 4 inches and 24.5 rows over 4 inches. So that's for colorwork. And then the stockinette gauge in the pattern, it calls for 19.5 stitches over 29 rounds, and that equals 4 inches. And my gauge for the stockinette portion was 19.5 stitches over 4 inches, so that is exactly what it calls for, and 28 rows over 4 inches. So I was just slightly off with the row gauge for both colorwork and stockinette, and just slightly off on the stitch gauge for colorwork. So ultimately, I did determine to make a size F, which is a 56.5-inch finished measurement. I have between a 50-inch and a 52-inch bust, depending on the day, apparently. So that would give me between 4 and 6.5 inches of positive ease. So I ended up going for size F. And now that we have that, let's go through the timeline of events. So I'm knitting size F. On July 30th, my swatch was dry. I measured my gauge and I cast on. 2 days later, on August 1st, I had finished the color work. So I'd cast on and I'd finished the color work between July 30th and August 1st. And I didn't stop that momentum there because by August 2nd, I had reached sleeve separation. Okay, so I'm really blazing through this sheep camp. From the period of July 30th when I cast on to August 3rd, I had sleeve separation, and that is a lot of knitting, especially for a plus size garment. But I just couldn't put this down. I was totally captivated by the knitting process. So I was telling my husband that I have two reactions when it comes to knitting colorwork yokes. The first is the colorwork yoke is so captivating and engaging that every single row is a joy to knit. My second reaction when sometimes knitting colorwork yokes is that it's incredibly cumbersome and it feels like the yoke is taking forever. The sheep camp is the perfect combination of those two things. It is really captivating. It's repetitive, so it's easy to memorize. It's easy to look at while you're making it and to determine what portion of the pattern you're at and what stitches you need to make. But it's also a bit cumbersome in that it seems to take a long time. So for instance, if you have knit the throwover or the throwback sweaters by Andrea Mowry, those color work yokes go fairly quickly. One, because it's worsted weight yarn, and two, because it's not really prolonged. It's not a prolonged pattern. It's only a few inches in length. Whereas the sheep camp, the colorwork pattern is all the way from your neck to the bottom of your bust. So it did feel like it was taking a long time, but at the same time, it was very engaging, captivating, and enjoyable to knit. So I really enjoyed, that brain workout and that practice of endurance, and sometimes it felt like long suffering, when in reality it was 3 days. Like, it's 3 days. It's a drop in the bucket of my life. But I really enjoyed knitting the colorwork yoke. So on August 3rd, I took a break from the body and I decided to be like Leslie of Knit California. She's posted before on Instagram that she likes sometimes to knit the sleeves before the body when she separates for sleeves. So I decided I would do that, and I chose that for a few reasons. The first and most prominent is because I wanted that, I don't know, satisfaction of coming to the beginning of round marker sooner. So the circumference of my sleeve is smaller than the circumference of my body, so I would finish a round faster on a sleeve than on the body. So on that same day, on August 3rd, I finished that first sleeve. And I did make some modifications to the sleeves, nothing major. I picked up 11 stitches at the armhole opening, and then on my second round I decreased that by 4. In the pattern it says to pick up 7 stitches instead of 11, but I didn't want to have to sew close the armholes at all. I didn't want any holes or I don't know, gaping openings, so I did pick up 11 stitches, and then on the second row of the sleeve I decreased it so it would be the number called for in the pattern. And then the other modification I did was I bound off in a size 8 needle. The hem is knit in a size 6 needle. So usually I always go up 2 or sometimes 3 needle sizes to bind off because I don't want to have a tight bind off. But other than that, I don't think I modified the sleeves. So I finished the first sleeve on August 3rd, and then the evening of August 3rd, this was still the summertime for me, so I didn't need to wake up early in the morning. I stayed up till, I think, 2 a.m. knitting on my sheep camp. So I also finished the second sleeve in that time. And before I went to bed that night, or technically the morning of August 4th, I started to become concerned with yarn chicken. So if you're not familiar with that terminology, yarn chicken just means you are basically playing a game of if you will finish the garment or item first, or will the yarn run out first. So yarn chicken is just another way of saying you're scared, okay? So I was scared, and I posted this on my stories that I was concerned about yarn chicken, and I already had a plan if I were to lose yarn chicken, because at that time the favorites collection pre-order had not gone live yet. So I knew that if I did lose yarn chicken, I could just purchase a skein of Smoke Show, which is this main color, during the favorites collection pre-order, and that would be fine. I was not pressed to invest $30 of my own money to finish this garment when Lauren had been so generous to give me the yarn to make it in the first place. But I didn't even have to do that, because Lauren saw my story and she messaged me and she said, I still have 2 skeins of your dye lot for Smoke Show. I can send it to you. And I said, thank you so much. That's so generous. I think I only need 1. And so that was that. I knew that if I did lose yarn chicken, it would be okay because there would be more yarn coming. Okay, so I go to sleep. It's the wee hours of the morning on August 4th. I go to sleep. I wake up. All I can think about is sheep camp. Sheep camp, sheep camp, sheep camp. I am going to finish my sheep camp today, or I am going to lose yarn chicken trying to finish the sheep camp. So I think on this day, my husband and I went out to lunch, we went grocery shopping, or we did some errands. So I was in the car with my sheep camp, and I did lose yarn chicken in the car. It was very sad, but I got a milkshake afterwards to console my heart. I was gonna get a milkshake anyway, but I don't know. I just said it was to comfort me, but really I was getting it anyway. But it did also help to comfort me. But I had 17 rows of stockinette left on the body before 1 1/4 inch of hem ribbing that the pattern calls for. So I was relatively close to the end, but by no means close enough to make my yarn stretch all the way. Now, I've mentioned this before, but something that you may want to take note of if you plan to knit the sheep camp is get an extra skein, or maybe 2 extra skeins of your main color, because I did not have enough yarn to even knit the recommended length in the pattern. And the pattern is written for this sweater to be considerably cropped, and I still didn't have enough yarn. There are a few things that I think you could argue to say why I didn't have enough yarn. I knit a very large swatch. Also, my gauge was not perfect, but I still think that despite those two factors, the yardage recommended in the pattern is still maybe leaving a little bit of room for inaccuracy. So, especially if you're a plus size knitter, I can't speak to the smaller sizes, but for every single size of this pattern, except for the smallest size and the largest size, it calls for 4 skeins of main color. And I knit size F, so there's 2 sizes above mine that also call for 4 skeins of DK weight yarn, and I could not finish the recommended length for my size with 4 skeins of DK weight yarn. So keep that in mind if you're planning to knit the sheep camp. I would err on the side of caution and get 1 or 2 extra main color skeins. I will say though that the recommendation for 2 skeins of the contrast color for me worked out just fine. I have an 80-gram cake left over, so I did use the full first skein and about 1/5 of the second skein, and I think I'm gonna make a rat. I have enough left over to make a rat, but yes, the 2 skeins of contrast worked fine for me. It's the 4 skeins of main color where I had an issue. So again, just proceed with caution. Be aware of that if you're planning to make the sheep camp, and keep that in mind. I would hate for you not to have enough yarn for what you need. Okay, so that takes us to the end of August 4th. At this time, I have the full yoke done, both sleeves done, and nearly all of the body done, at least as it's written in the pattern, and I put this project on hold. Obviously, I can't work on it when I don't have yarn for it, so hello, it goes on hold. It goes into my basket of whips, waiting the day when I will take it out and work on it again. And that day came on August 24th. On August 24th, I received a package from Lauren of Treehouse Knits. And what I was expecting to see upon opening that package was 1 skein of Smoke Show and 1 skein of her Rory colorway, because I also mentioned to her that I thought I was 1 skein short for the field day cardigan I'm working on in the Rory colorway. To my surprise and delight, I opened up that package to see not 1 skein of Smoke Show, not 1 skein of Rory, but 2 skeins of Smoke Show and 2 skeins of Rory. So Lauren's generosity is astounding, and I don't know why I have been chosen to deserve her generosity, but I'm so grateful for it, and I was blown away when I opened that package. So immediately I wound the first skein of Smoke Show out of the 2 into a cake, and I set to work. So on August 24th, I got the skeins, and then I knit the body to 38 rows. That's what's written in the pattern. For my row gauge, I would have needed to knit 37 rows, but I just knit 38 rows because I had enough yarn to do it now. I didn't have to be pressed about running out of yarn anymore. So August 24th, I knit to 38 rows of the body, and then I did the hem ribbing. I ended up doing 1 by 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, hem ribbing, and I didn't realize it until after because I was so eager to finish, but the ribbing on the sheep camp is 2 by 2. So I knew I would have to take that out and redo it anyway. But at that time, I was most concerned about seeing what the length was like. So what I did was I blocked the sheep camp and I put it on blocking mats to dry, and then I left it alone for a few days. So I knew that once it was dry, I was going to try it on and I was going to determine if it was too cropped or just right. not afraid of a cropped sweater. I love to wear them over dresses, but I wasn't sure if I wanted this to be longer or cropped. And again, since I had 2 new skeins of Smoke Show, I had the wiggle room to be able to explore different lengths of the sweater to decide what would work for me. So I left that to dry. On August 29th, I revisited it and I tried it on and I realized it was not right. Like something was wrong. And I eventually realized it was because of the neckline. The neckline on the sheep camp is a rolled neckline, meaning you cast on your collar stitches and then instead of doing ribbing, you just knit a few rows in a smaller needle size before going up your needle size to work on the short rows and the increases for your yoke. So that creates an effect where the collar kind of rolls in on itself and looks not unfinished, but I mean, it's a different look than a ribbed collar. So I realized that the neckline was the problem. And I had a few options in front of me. I could choose to frog my collar and pick up stitches and knit up a ribbed collar. But I was afraid to do that because I attempted to do a similar surgery on my sea glass sweater in the summer of 2022, and that ended in disaster. So I was kind of afraid to revisit that kind of attempt. The other option I had, which was shared with me by Rachel of Anthro Knits on Instagram, she suggested that I purchase some elastic thread and sew around the collar to cinch it up. And she recommended this video from Engineering Knits that walks you through that process. So on August 29th, I tried to cinch it up using that elastic method, but I was having trouble because I couldn't really determine what stitch to thread the elastic through because of the nature of it being a rolled hem, or rolled collar, I should say. So I abandoned that idea. It was not sparking joy for me. I didn't like how it looked. And so I thought I needed to revisit my other idea, which was to have a ribbed collar. So what I did was I looked at the pattern and I saw that for my pattern size, it calls for casting on 112 collar stitches. So I knew that from the cast on edge, there's 112 stitches. And it also says to knit 6 rows for your rolled collar. So what I did was I did my best to count 6 rows down from my cast on edge. And I went all the way around my collar, picking up 112 stitches. And then I knit 8 rows of 2x2 ribbing. Okay, so this is on August 29th. I knit 8 rows of 2x2 ribbing, and that worked wonders to lift the neckline. I really did not like the look of it kind of dripping down my shoulders, and if I was going to wear over dresses, I wanted the sweater to cover whatever was on my shoulders. That's just the look that I prefer. So picking up those collar stitches really helped with that. And I just left, as you saw, I just left the original collar intact because it's not hurting anybody. You can't really see it. It's not bunchy or anything. So I just left it. So I was really happy with that mod and proud of myself for not risking everything by cutting my collar open and potentially ruining my sweater that I had just worked so hard for. So that happened on August 29th. But even though picking up this ribbed collar helped immensely, it still wasn't quite where I wanted it because it was a little loose on the sides and on the back of my neck. So on September 3rd, I revisited this and I frogged my hem because I knew I had to redo the hem, and also I thought it was a little too cropped. I knit more on the body. Basically, I knit so there was like over 12 inches of body length from my sleeve separation before my 1¼ inch of hem ribbing. So basically on September 3rd, I finished knitting the body with that additional length. I used both of the skeins that Lauren sent me as reinforcement, and I sewed 2 rounds of elastic thread around the circumference of my ribbed collar. This was way easier than doing it on the rolled collar, and I love the result. It's higher on my neck. It doesn't gape at my shoulders. You can't see the dress I'm wearing underneath this. It's perfect. It's exactly the look that I wanted, and I'll definitely be utilizing elastic thread in the future. So before the end of the day of September 3rd, I wet blocked this for the second time, I believe. I put it on the blocking mats to dry, and then on the morning of September 1st, it was nearly dry because I had put it in the spin cycle before putting it on the blocking mats to get out the excess moisture. And if you want me to walk you through my blocking process, I'll link my blocking video up here. But by the morning of September 4th, it was nearly dry, and I put it on my body to dry the rest of the way because I didn't want there to be any ridges or weird shaping on the shoulders, because that had happened the first time I blocked it, and I just wanted it to dry a little bit more, I don't know, look a little bit more natural on my body. And when I put it on, I was surprised to see how long it was. I really took advantage of having 2 extra skeins, and I just went a little wild, and I knit this quite long. And immediately when I put it on, I thought, this isn't gonna work. I need to crop this. And yeah, I just was really questioning my decision to knit it so long. So I had a real conundrum, and I took to Instagram and I posted on my stories, and I'll show you what I posted here. Okay, here's the deal part 2. This is what it looks like over jeans. It does look to be a good length for over jeans, and Leslie said she would teach me the French tuck, because I don't think I'm doing it right. What? Anyway, so these are my thoughts. You can tell the difference in skeins. Like this strip right here is 1 skein, and this down here is another skein, and you can see the difference between skeins. What I should have done is blended the join by alternating a few rows when I was ready to join a new skein. But anyway, the point is, what do you think? Should I keep it this length? My options are keep it this length and do nothing. Keep it this length and add elastic to cinch up the hem, or crop it. What would you do? So in response to those stories, I got a lot of feedback. Some people very adamant saying, don't do anything, it's perfect. Other people saying a little bit of elastic will do the trick. Other people saying crop it, crop everything, cut it up, crop it, crop it, crop it. But Leslie was the calm voice in the storm. Leslie of Knit California messaged me, and she said she thought it was just a little too long. So instead of cropping it at my waist, to just crop it a few inches where I had joined that second skein. So that last skein, just crop it up to there, knit the hem ribbing, and you're good to go. So who am I to question Leslie? No one. So that's exactly what I did. I frogged back to the join of that last skein. I got all the stitches on my needles, and I knit the 8 hem rows of 2x2 ribbing, and then I used a size 9 needle to bind off. And I'll show you my reveal of it here. Okay, here's the deal part 3. I just like it way better now. I didn't fully crop it. I didn't go all the way up here. I just went to here, and I think I could wear it over jeans, maybe with like a collared blouse underneath. I could wear it over dresses. My little pudge looks so cute underneath it. It's done. It's done. And that is the final result. It's what I'm wearing now. It's perfect. I am going to take this with me to Ireland. It's kind of a plot twist because I was thinking I need to make green sweaters for Ireland. And one of the sweaters that I'm going to bring is purple. And like, if you're Irish and you're thinking, why does everyone just say green, green, green? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's annoying, but I just wanted to wear a lot of green in Ireland, and I still will probably, but I'm also going to wear this beautiful purple sweater. So I think it hits me just right. It's really flattering and it's versatile because I'll be able to wear it over dresses because it's a little cropped like I like, but it's long enough still to wear over jeans. So happy with it, and I want to knit several more sheep camp sweaters because, like I said earlier, I really did enjoy the process of knitting it, and I think that's saying a lot because, as you now know, there were a lot of roadblocks in my path from getting this from skein form to sweater form, and still, despite all of that, I loved knitting this. I have had projects, sweaters, whatever, where I hit a roadblock and it's so overwhelming. It's so, I don't know, frustrating. It's so burdensome that the result is I stuff it in my project bag, I put it in my basket of whips, and I don't look at it for months or maybe years, okay? That happens to me with whips. I can get so, I don't know, defeated feeling that I am not willing to revisit it for a very long time. That was not the case with the sheep camp. Even though there were roadblocks, even though there were frustrations, I could not wait to go back to it time and time again. So I think 3 separate times at least, I thought this was a finished object, and it wasn't. It just wasn't done. And now I'm ready to call this a finished object. This is officially done. It's in my wardrobe. It's ready to wear. And I'm so glad that I did not give up, because I know that if I had stopped at any part of the process before now, when I thought it was a finished object, I would not wear this. I would never reach for this in my closet if I had kept it as long as it was. Even if it was as cropped as it was, I probably wouldn't. If I didn't take the time to fix the neckline, I would not wear it. I would not feel confident in it. I would not feel comfortable in it. But now I just want to show it off because it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm really proud of my very hard work to make it so. That's my experience knitting the sheep camp. If you've knit a sheep camp and your process of making it was seamless, pat yourself on the back. Amazing, because obviously that was not my experience, but I'm so happy for you if it was yours. But yeah, I'm really glad that this is done, and I know that it's going to get a lot of wear, and I'm going to take such good care of it the rest of my life because I'm so proud of it. And I'm also thinking of color combinations of what to make next, because I will be making more sheep camp sweaters in the future, and I will take the knowledge that I've learned from making this one to make my future ones a little bit more of a streamlined process. For instance, I would not do the rolled collar again. I know I don't like that. So next time I know that I will cast on a ribbed collar, or I could cast on after the collar instructions and then go back after and pick up the collar. Either way, I know that I will prefer that over the rolled collar that the pattern calls for. So there's some examples for you of things that you can take mental notes of as you're knitting a garment. If there's something you just don't like, change it. You don't have to follow the rules all the time if you know you're not going to enjoy the finished object as the pattern's written. It's okay to modify, okay? It's okay. I give you permission. So that's all I have for you. If you're knitting a sheep camp, let me know. I'm kind of thirsty for color combination ideas and inspiration, so I'd love to hear about yours. But other than that, that's all I have for you today. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, you can give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel if you don't already, and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified of my next upload. Last but not least, head over to Instagram and follow me at Rachel is Knitting if you don't already, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.